Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video in Forge of Empires. Today I'm going off script again, so if it seems like I'm rambling, I probably am. In this video, I thought it would be fun to play a what-if game, where we go through all 48 great buildings, look at the bonuses that they give, and then try to decide what bonuses they would actually give in quote-unquote real life, based on if they do exist, the properties and characteristics that they have in the real world. So without any further ado, we'll start with the AI core. And I'll do the description in-game, and then I'll do the description that I found online when I was researching all of these buildings. So in-game, the AI core is a central supercomputer processing massive amounts of data. Pretty much in the real world, that is the case. So the current bonuses are production bonus to guild goods. It produces a certain number of goods from your current age for the guild. And then it also gives something called algorithmic core, which for the first 10 collections in your main city containing special goods, you collect a certain percentage more of those special goods after reaching the age of Arctic Future. So Oceanic and all of the synthesizers for space age. So, like I said, in real life, AI core enables or enhances capabilities, so increasing the amount of special goods that you get makes sense. My other thought was maybe it could increase efficiency of, or increase production of, any of your goods buildings, military buildings, production buildings, coin buildings, anything like that, because AI isn't specifically for a certain type of good. It could be for anything. So it just increases production of everything, similar to what happiness does right now. Happiness increases everything in your city by a certain percentage based on how enthusiastic your population is. Next is Alcatraz. Alcatraz is the inescapable federal penitentiary, and it's the same in real life. So it is a prison. It used to be a prison. It's now a tourist site. Um, there's going to be a lot of great buildings that are like this, because for the most part, most of these buildings are tourist sites in real life. So I was trying to think of something fun that tourist or tourism could mean. Um, Happiness is one of them, so I think they got that right. The unattached military units doesn't really make sense for this. It's not like the prison was like training soldiers or anything like that. I mean, I'm assuming the prison was similar to other prisons. There were some, you know, bad people in there, and bad people like to fight, and maybe that's why they made it a military building. But focusing on the tourism, I think that it could be something to do with the population, something to do with, maybe since it was a prison, you're getting rid of the bad people, so the population is better. I don't know. A little bit of a stretch, but honestly, I think they did a fairly good job with the bonuses for this building. Arctic Orangeery. Arctic Orangeery does not exist in real life, but an orangery, just in general, is a building used for growing orange or fruit trees. That's what it said online. So right here we have production of forge points and critical hit increased chance, which does not make sense. So swing and a miss. Honestly, I think this could be production of goods. Um, you know, I kind of equate goods to food in real life, so it's producing food. This could produce goods. It could be a lot of goods, because obviously a lot of people like building the Arctic Orangery for the critical hit. and for the forge points. Full disclosure, I'm not saying that these bonuses that I'm just throwing out are better than the ones currently in game, uh, and especially when we get to the Ark, because people would riot, but I just wanted to put the little note in there so no one gets mad at me. Next is the Atlantis Museum. So Atlantis is a made-up city. It never existed, and a museum to it doesn't really make sense. So in-game, it produces goods, and it also gives a percentage to double what you plunder. I never heard of the people of Atlantis plundering or pillaging people. I think that if there were a Viking building, that would kind of be more that style. So the thing that I read about Atlantis was that it had very advanced technology and very impressive architecture. So for advanced technology, maybe there's an increase to how much you can research, or maybe the reduced amount of goods or forge points that you need in order to research because you have this advanced technology building. For impressive architecture, it could mean that your construction times are reduced by a certain percentage. So that's going to be something that comes up often, a pattern as well, impressive architecture, because a lot of these buildings are, from centuries ago when architecture was, the Renaissance and stuff like that. Cape Canaveral. Cape Canaveral is down in Florida in the United States. It is one of the um, places where spaceships are shot up into space. So it had the Apollo 11 mission. It also has a bunch of other space stuff. So it giving forge points doesn't really make sense. So they made Cape Canaveral for postmodern era before. I don't know if they had space age in the works when they were thinking of this, but obviously Cape Canaveral would be something where maybe it's easier to get to um, the next space age, or it's quicker to go from one continent map sector in space to the next because you have Cape Canaveral and it reduces the amount of time in between those sectors by a certain percentage. Like something like that. That would be more on brand for Cape Canaveral. Castell del Monte. So Castell del Monte is a fortress. It in-game possibly meant to deter rebellious local nobles. Many idiosyncrasies and mysteries details have puzzled researchers. So that's interesting. Basically, what I read about it online was that it's a fortress. So a fortress to me sounds defensive, and so instead of this being for both attack and defense, while attacking, it should be for defensive armies. It just makes more sense to me. And then forge point production, sure. Maybe the fact that it's a castle and there were probably serfs or, villagers or something that had to pay a tithe to the person of the castle, sure, that equates to forge points, that makes sense. But I definitely think a fortress is more defensive than on the attacking side. Cathedral of Aachen. So this, straight up, the architecture, the actual pictures that I saw online of this, I would probably want to go see this in person. The architecture is amazing. So we go back to just reduced amount of construction time when you're building buildings. Especially right now we're going through this summer event, and for the challenge, the rival challenges, sometimes I'll have to build, I don't know, a goods building for my age or previous age, or I'll have to build, certain amount of population, so I'll have to build houses or I'll have to build supply buildings. And at this age, at the space age, space hub era, everything takes hours, like 14 hours, 16 hours, 20 plus hours. So in order to complete something within a day is nearly impossible. And so I think that having more great buildings with the reduced construction time would actually be more helpful. Like that's probably the one thing that I would add to some of these buildings. Chateau Frontenac, another one that just, I mean, it looks beautiful in real life. I definitely want to go visit at some point. Um, it is a very grand hotel. In game, it has coin production and a quest reward boost. So a lot of people like this quest reward boost. I'm not saying that we have to take it away. I get it. Um, Coin production doesn't really make sense. I mean, I don't know. Hotels make money. Coin production, sure. If anything, it should increase population because I think this hotel has like 600 something rooms, and you know, you're housing people. Um, so increase in population makes more sense. Quest reward boost, I don't really know what I would equate that to in real life. So maybe just the fact that, I don't know, you have tourists, they're bringing a bunch of stuff, like coins and supplies and goods and stuff like that. I don't know. But I definitely think coin production makes sense, and I think population would make more sense, to me at least. Colosseum. Colosseum I've actually been to. Um, it is, it was first and foremost a theater and a sports venue. If you've ever watched any of the old, you know, Gladiator or like, you know, any of the old movies or recent movies that are uh, staged in Rome, you'll probably see the Colosseum. There's a lot of fighting that happens there. So I honestly would have had some type of attack or defense boost, some type of military boost, because when you think of the Colosseum, you think of these, you know, grand fighting and you know, these soldiers and gladiators and all this different stuff. Happiness makes sense because if I'm remembering correctly from my history class, that's half the reason why the Colosseum was even made, just to keep the people happy. They're starving, there's not a lot of food, they're living in squalor. Send them to the Colosseum and just have them go mad with happiness watching all this different stuff. Metal production, I have no idea how to equate that to real life. Um, Maybe, I don't know. At some point, medals are being given to the gladiators? Beats me. Next, Cosmic Catalyst does not exist in real life. It produces guild goods, and it also has a critical hit. So, my thought is Cosmic has to do with space, Catalyst has to do with science, something to do with, again, the reduced amount of forge points or goods that you need to research, maybe even just research specifically in the space eras. Like, it doesn't even make sense to build before you get to space. And I think that's fair. I think that we could have great buildings that only work for certain eras. And I'll bring this up later on with some other buildings as well, but like, I mean, no one is like me and builds every single great building. You shouldn't. It's inefficient. And I think that it's fair that some great buildings just get built and you use them during the era that they're useful for, and then once you get out of that era, then you just delete them. And it's one of those things where the great building should give enough that it's worth it to build when you're in that era, and then it's useless when you're out of that era, so you get rid of it and you put something in its place that makes more sense. So anyway, cosmic, space, catalyst, science, um, you know, just something to do more on par with that would make sense. Deal Castle, same thing as Castell de Monte. It was a fortress. Specifically online, it called it an artillery fort, which then gave me the idea that maybe we could have great buildings that focus on a specific type of military unit. So, for example, the Castel del Monte wasn't anything specific. It is for the whole army. But Deal Castle, being an artillery fort, it only increases the attack and defense boosts for your artillery units. And that's where it kind of gets interesting. Like, obviously, all the military units in Forge of Empires have different advantages and disadvantages to other units. But if you just absolutely build, you know, the Deal Castle up to level whatever, and your artillery units are like super, super strong, OP, as some would say, that changes the game. And I think that would make it kind of interesting, like, if you stack all of your military boosts on one type of unit, and then you don't have to build any other type of unit. Regardless of who you're fighting against, that's what you're going to use. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Interested to see what some of you think. Flying islands don't exist. They're fantasy, obviously. So in-game, they give a mysterious shard, which is rewarded in the settlements that you can play as a minigame in the top left, or sorry, top right, up over here. That, I don't know, maybe kind of makes sense. They look a little bit like miniature flying islands, so I don't know. Maybe this was a fantasy. Flying island is a fantasy. The other thing that I was thinking is it kind of just looks like it's extra land, right? Like it's floating above the land that is already there. So maybe it's a reduction of how much extra land costs, right? So all the additional expansions in your city cost diamonds or metals or quantum metals, all these different things, coins, which I almost forgot about because I ran out of those expansions a long time ago. But maybe this is a reduction in cost for all of those things. My other thought, and kind of along the same lines of the Deal Castle, is it's flying. Why doesn't it increase the army boosts of flying units? And so then you have flying units not in a specific era. You have them through multiple eras, but then some eras do not have any flying units. So it's kind of a question of is it worth it to keep it if you're in one of those eras, or do you delete it and then you build it up again once you get to another era that does have flying units? So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. I'm not going to attempt this name. It's something of Dresden, and we'll keep it at that. But in real life, it's a church, and it was known for its resilience during World War II. And I think that means it also has defensive boosts. In game, it gives goods and it gives happiness, which, sure, like we said before, it has architecture, it has, it's a tourist attraction. Maybe it could give happiness. I think that's fine. Goods doesn't really make sense along, what I've been kind of talking through. The Gaia statue. So Gaia is like Mother Earth. She is like the goddess of Earth, goddess of nature, goddess of fertility. Maybe it increases goods production because you're kind of like instilling this, I don't know, like godly efficiency or godly production or something like that. In-game metal production, happiness, sure, why not? It's kind of a weird, great building to begin with, so why not give it some weird bonuses? Galato Tower does exist in real life. It was a watchtower, so I actually think that the plunder repel does make sense. So you have this watchtower, and you have someone up there watching for people attacking, and this plunder repel is basically saying that there's a chance that you repel the attackers and they gain nothing. And I mean, in real life, that's basically what a watchtower did, right? So that makes sense. Good production doesn't make as much sense, but 1 for 2. Hagio Sophia. Hagio Sophia is known for its architecture and religion. So again, something to do with construction, something to do with just like better buildings, maybe, and literally just thinking of this now, maybe it increases the population that some buildings give. So, for example, if you have a, just normal population building that gives 100 population, and then you build the Hagia Sophia and it increases population by 10% at level 10. And so now your building gives 110 population. And that obviously scales with age and eras and stuff like that. I think that'd be kind of cool. And then maybe you don't have to build as many buildings because you're getting more population from the building that you have, and now you can build other buildings for army boosts or good production or something like that. So I think that is a fairly good idea. And then next we have Himeji Castle. Himeji Castle, it's a castle. The one thing that I did find online is that it has a maze, and I guess that deterred people from, I don't know, getting to it and, laying siege and all this different stuff. So again, defensive boost comes to mind immediately. In game, it's supply production and spoils of war. Um, Spoils of war, it's a castle, that kind of makes sense. Supply production, not really. Um, but one for two, not bad. Innovation Tower. This one, in my opinion, should be what the Ark is. So the Innovation Tower is known for research, development, and collaboration. Collaboration is the big one. So obviously, the collaboration could lead to you donating to, or you putting forge points on someone else's great building. That's collaborating, and you get an increased percentage of forge points back. Again, like I said, essentially what the Ark is doing, but it should be Innovation Tower. Or, since I also mentioned research and development, that goes straight to the research tab, and maybe it's a reduction in, the forge point cost or the goods cost or anything like that. Um, Another cool thing could be like maybe, I don't know, you get fragments towards unlocking a research tile for free. So, you collect from this once a day, you get one fragment, because we need more fragments, right? But you get one fragment out of 100, and after 100 days, you unlock something for free. It doesn't have to be 100 days. I'm just throwing out numbers. Could be 50, could be 20, something like that. Maybe it increases. Maybe you get, 50 fragments at level 50, great building. Lighthouse of Alexandria. So this guided ships, and it helped with trade to the it helped with trade for the port of Alexandria. This, I mean, for me, is obviously something that should increase or make better the trade function. Right now, the trading function isn't great. You can trade 1-for-1 or 2-for-1 in either direction. And I think that it'd be cool if you could increase the amount of, I don't know, trades that you can do or the amount of goods that you get from a trade. I think the normal trades that you can currently get from a non-player, like if you're just trading with the game itself, it's like 10-to-1. Make that better. I mean, I know that there's something that you can purchase from the tavern that reduces it 5-to-1, 4-to-1, 3-to-1, something like that. Make it a great building. We have so many great buildings. You can just add that to one of the great buildings, and I think this one should be it. In-game, it's good production, which makes sense, honestly, with the trade. And then supply boost, sure. The Lotus Temple. Lotus Temple in real life is for purity, sacredness, and knowledge. I'm going to focus on knowledge because it's the easiest one to deal with, and it's the best one that I can possibly think of for in-game. So knowledge goes to research, reduced research, we've gone over this. In-game, it's coin production and happiness. It's certainly an interesting looking building. I'm sure it's a tourist attraction. Happiness isn't that far off. Maybe you have to pay to enter, so that's the coin production. Observatory. So observatory, an astronomical telescope or some other science equipment. So we could go two ways with this. We could go back the science route and say it helps with research, or we could go with the space route and say that it helps you in some way when you reach the space eras. Either one would be fine, I think. So take your pick, whichever one you like the most. Oracle of Delphi. So this one I thought was interesting. So Oracle of Delphi was consulted for important decisions made back in ancient Greeks. And at first I didn't really know what I was going to say for this one, but after thinking about it, I think this could help with negotiations. And what I mean by that is like important decisions, like when you're negotiating, when you're doing the negotiations and you're picking out the different goods. Maybe Oracle of Delphi, I don't know, takes away one of the goods. Like if you have 5 goods to pick from and it knows that one of them is not the right one, it takes it away. And so then you immediately are at a better chance of getting the negotiation correct. So I think that one is an interesting one. I don't know how exactly it would work in game, but in game it's supply, production, and happiness. It doesn't have an age. This is one of the ones where you basically get it from a quest when you start the game. Not very many people keep it for very long. I keep wanting to get it to level 100 because of a completionist. But in any case, the next is Rainforest Project, which isn't really a building in real life. It's more just a conservation effort. Um, I wasn't really sure what to say for this one. Good production, um, conserving stuff, and producing goods kind of seems like the opposite to me. And then the aid, when you aid, you get blueprints. Maybe just the fact that Rainforest Project seems very community based and social based and like protect the earth and all this different stuff. So you're aiding people, people are aiding you. I don't know. Maybe that makes sense. Royal Albert Hall is something it's a large building in the United Kingdom. It's basically just a huge auditorium. Not as big as the Colosseum, but similar thoughts. So auditorium, happiness makes the most sense. And we already have a lot of great buildings with happiness, and I've already kind of mentioned taking some happiness away, and maybe we add it to some others. And I think this is one where we would add happiness in. In game, it's good production and supply boost. I don't think either of those make sense for Royal Albert Hall. You're not producing goods, you're putting on a show. So, swing and a miss. St. Basil's Cathedral. Oh, this is the one in Moscow. So, this one, architecture, religion, tourism, happiness right off the bat. I mean, if we want to start talking about the location that it's in, like it's in Moscow, I don't know. You're talking about a fierce people, so you have fierce resistance, something defensive, something like that. Coin production maybe makes sense. It is, religion. It's they're gathering tithes or they're gathering donations or something like that. So then we get to all of the Saturn grade buildings. And so with these, none of them really exist. Saturn 6 Centaurus is not a real thing. So there is a centaur, that half human, half horse creatures that have wisdom and knowledge, and they're based on mythology, stuff like that. So I tried to go along with that. I stayed away from like the Saturn portion of it, and maybe this increases the attack bonuses of fast units, which in early eras is primarily horses, and then it also increases the attack bonuses of infantry units or light units. And, like we said before, there's other great buildings that focus on one type of unit. This would focus on two types of units, so maybe it doesn't increase the attack bonuses as much, but it increases it for two types of units. In the game, it's previous era goods, which doesn't really make sense to me, and military boost, which is kind of what I was talking about. Pegasus is the next. So Pegasus, obviously the winged horse. Pegasus apparently is also a satellite. So you could go either way with this. You could do the fast units again, or you could do something more aligned with like maybe a satellite is it's easier to get from sector to sector, like I said before, or it's easier to find, maybe it increases the amount of special goods that you get from defeating sectors in space, something like that. Then we have Hydra. So Hydra is a mythical beast with many heads. It's also a moon, I think. Or what I found online was it's kind of like a Pluto adjacent. The planet, or the former planet Pluto, Hydra is like basically just a similar body, and it's covered in ice. And so my thought was maybe this increases production during the Arctic era because it's ice themed, something like that. In game, it's guild goods and advanced tactics, which is basically attacking and defending boosts for attacking and defending armies. So neither of those really fit, in my opinion, but a lot of people build it because it's really good and also only takes up a 4x4. But in any case, the next one, Seed Vault. Seed Vault is an actual thing in real life. It's for long-term storage for seeds of the world. There's like tens of thousands of seeds, maybe hundreds of thousands of seeds from every part of the planet, just in case there's some cataclysmic event and all the other planets die. We at least have this seed vault where we can, take everything from and start anew. What does that mean for Forge of Empires? I have no idea. I literally have no clue. I was thinking goods again. Helping Hands maybe makes sense. Just the name Helping Hands, like, we're helping keep plants, certain type of plants alive, something like that. I mean, this just gives you a chance of getting something by aiding other players. Supply production doesn't make any sense though. Space Carrier. Now, Space Carrier is interesting. Space Carrier is obviously a transportation thing for space. My thought is, what if it helps with colony population? You have to have a population on your different space colonies. What if you could have this space carrier, and as you level it up, it increases the amount of percentage that it takes from your normal city population, and you can add that to your space colony. The thought being that you're quote unquote taking people from your town and you're shipping them off to space, and an increased percentage as you go up in level. Just a thought. Let me know what you think. Space Needle, I've been to. That is in Seattle. It was built for the World's Fair. It's basically just an observation tower and a tourist attraction. So we can go either way with this. You can do something similar to the Galato Tower, or you could do something similar to any of the other, touristy type buildings. They bring happiness, maybe they bring coins, which, funny enough, is exactly what it's bringing. Then we have St. Marks Basilica. So this is in Venice. I've been to this one as well. It houses relics, and it's a huge place for architecture. So houses relics. As soon as I read that, I immediately thought of Temple of Relics, and I think that this should be the new quote-unquote Temple of Relics. this should be the thing that is generating relics through Guild Expedition. Maybe we change Guild Expedition to Venetian themed. I'm not against it, but just a thought. Next we have Stargazer. So Stargazer is kind of similar to the Observatory. It's just an astronomy instrument, like a telescope. I think this could be similar to what I said before, like you are able to see the star ahead of you more clearly, and so therefore you're able to get to it more quickly. So when you're jumping from sector to sector on the continent map, once you get to the space age, it's not really a continent map anymore, it's more a space map, and you're going through all the different sectors of the different planets. It's just faster to get to. In-game, it's previous era goods, which doesn't really go with the theme. Statue of Zeus is in Olympia. I have not visited this one, but Zeus is the god of sky and thunder, so maybe we can do something with that. Maybe flying units again, or just like thunder, I don't know, electricity. It's not really a thing in Forge of Empires, but a thought. Obviously, the statue of Zeus in real life, there's a lot of tourists that go to see it, and I think I read that originally it was made of ivory and gold. I don't know, maybe that's coin production. Maybe that's an increase in coin production. Like a boost to it or something like that. In game, it's a military boost, and it's the cheapest one out there, so I'm fine with leaving it as it is. Stellar Warship does not exist in real life, but I don't know, maybe it's an increase to space age units, like maybe it's a boost to only space age units because it's a stellar warship, like it's a space warship. So in it, not that you really build it before getting to space age space hub, just because it's really difficult getting the goods and everything. It does only use supplies. It doesn't use the special good from space age space hub, but maybe that's just, another way that they can kind of have it focus on just like space age units. Temple of Relics. So Temple of Relics, I recently did a video on. It is in real life Chichen Itza in Mexico. And Chichen Itza is kind of just an example of the knowledge of math, geometry, and astronomy that the ancient, the ancient people had. So it's kind of like if they had all this knowledge of math and geometry and astronomy, like maybe they should have been better at, researching. And maybe in Forge of Empires, you would be better at researching. So just kind of along the lines of that again. Terracotta Army. So this is life-size clay soldiers, horses, chariots, all this different stuff. Honestly, I think they got this one dead on. It increases the attacking and defending units, both attack and defense. I can't see anything else for this. It's an army. It's just hundreds, maybe thousands of clay army figures. Like, that's it. You got it. Then we go to the Ark. So, like I said, the Ark does not exist in real life. For this one, they're describing that it's someplace that scientists go to gather and contribute unique insights to the planet. The word contribute does kind of, I mean, they literally call the boost a contribution boost. So you're getting rewards back for the forge points that you contribute to someone else's great building. Sure, that makes sense. But at the same time, it's very science-based, and I feel like it should be research-based as well. So back to the research tab where you're either increasing the amount of research that you can do at a time, or maybe you're just reducing the amount of cost that the research has. Blue Galaxy. Blue Galaxy has to do with space. I'm almost positive it does not exist in real life. There may be a galaxy that is blue that they call the Blue Galaxy, but it has, I'll tell you what, nothing to do with metal production. and nothing to do with doubling your collection. Doubling my collection is one of my favorite things to do, so I don't need it taken away. The Kraken. So, funny enough, the description doesn't really say what the Kraken is. It's basically just an enormous sea monster. Probably people saw giant squids and giant octopi, and they thought they were krakens. My thought for this one, obviously this is ocean-based. It's released in the oceanic future. Just have it increased efficiency for everything ocean-related. The oceanic buildings, oceanic production, oceanic army units, everything in the oceanic is increased. Maybe even like all the special buildings that you have that are in oceanic future. And maybe that's, I don't know, when you age up and you go to the next age, maybe the buildings produce less than they did at oceanic future, and maybe that's one reason to like camp out in an age or something. That'd be kind of cool, honestly. Then we have the Virgo Project. So the Virgo Project, a group of scientists that were running simulations on how space was created. This was kind of interesting. I think missile launch kind of makes sense. It's space related. Coin production, not really. Maybe because space is so expensive, you need a lot of coins, you need a lot of money. If anything, it should cost money. But I think they kind of did well here. They did, missile launch, you know, exploring space, looking at space. This doesn't really have to do with space exploration. It's more just missiles as like killing or defeating someone. But in any case, we'll let it slide. Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel is biblical. So apparently there was this great city, and they were building a tower to reach the sky, and a deity got angry and made them all start speaking different languages. Languages isn't really a thing in Forge of Empires. Obviously, everything is in the language that you speak in real life. So it's a city, so population kind of makes sense. Good production doesn't really make sense, but 1 for 2. Truce Tower. So Truce Tower was actually renamed back in the day. I'm going to date myself, but it used to be called the Dynamic Tower. And the Dynamic Tower is an actual tower that someone wanted to build in Dubai. And basically what it did was it like spun around, like all the different floors spun around, I guess. But basically architecture and it was a residential building, so I was thinking it would be population based. In game, it's supply production and aid goods. They don't really make sense. I think that the residential makes more sense, and the architecture would be happiness. So that's what I would change it to. Voyager V1. Voyager V1 is a space probe. In the game, they called it a mixture of hotel and giant Ferris wheel, so maybe residential. It gives a bonus called Plunder Goods, where you get to get random goods from a building that you plunder. That really doesn't make any sense to me. If anything, the going back to the space probe, it should be similar to what I've said before. You're sending out a probe, you're looking ahead at the other planets or other asteroids or something like that, and you're either getting to them more quickly or you're getting more goods from them once you get to them. So, increase rewards once you take a sector, something like that. The capital. So I'm going to try to not get political, but the capital is law and order. I also thought of like maybe negotiation. Like, Congress is negotiating between different laws and different bills and stuff like that. So maybe it helps you with negotiation in the game, right? So similar to what I was saying before, you're doing your negotiation and maybe it's less goods to negotiate with, or maybe it's less options that you need to choose from, something like that. In-game, it gives population and it gives supply production. Supply production never really makes sense, but population, sure, no one lives at the capital, but I guess a lot of people work there and that has population. Notre Dame. Notre Dame is an actual thing. What I read online was that its construction was very innovative. So again, maybe it's something to do with the construction time or the construction cost of the different buildings as you're going through the game. Those are reduced or made better, something like that. In game, it's supply production and happiness. I visited Paris. I saw Notre Dame from the outside. Unfortunately, it was shortly after it caught fire, so I was unable to go inside. So I can't say firsthand how beautiful it is, but I'm sure that if I had gone inside and it had not caught fire, I would have been very happy. Second last, the habitat. It's not an actual thing in real life. This says it's just an interlocking form. Habitat is just basically where people live. So the fact that it has population makes sense. Coin production, not so much. But just the habitat in general, it gives the feeling that it's giving specific needs, maybe special goods, maybe just goods in general. I think that would make more sense, population and goods. And finally, Atomium. This is an actual thing. It was built for a World's Fair. It is in Brussels. It's a museum, it's an art center, it's a tourist destination. So everything I've said before on any of those other types of buildings, that's what I would say. Happiness makes sense, maybe coin production, something like that. So that is all of them. We've gone through 48 great buildings. This video is now almost 48 minutes long. If you've stuck around for this long, thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, if you have any ideas for what should be added bonus-wise into the game, please leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video and would want to see more like it, maybe not as long, please make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, keep on jamming.